When you love your job, you're more abundant for it. Your mental, physical, and spiritual health, your emotional health, it thrives. You attract success. When you hate your job or your business or the little tasks in between, it's actually been proven that your health can suffer mentally, physically, emotionally. So why are so many people pursuing things that are in misalignment with who they are? Well, that's why I have Shate here today. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself, why this topic matters to her, and why it should matter to you. Shate, welcome to the job. Welcome to the job. You're hired. You're hired. Here we go.
Thank you so much, Shauna. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you for hiring me. I'm excited about that. I am Shate Hayes. I am a creative strategist and a storyteller. And through my company, Career Steward, I help creative women to organize and monetize their work. Together, we transform their unrelated background into their unique professional advantage so that they can win the contracts, funding, or influence that's important to them. And why this topic matters to me, my goodness, where do I even begin? So there are a couple of articles that I love to talk about because not a lot of people are talking about it. I don't know why more people aren't talking about this very subject, but there's an article in the Huffington Post that says you're hating your job costs this. That's the title of it somehow. And it lists this really long laundry list of all of the negative impacts to your body and to your mind when you hate your job. And so that could be anxiety, depression, gut issues, sleep problems, all sorts of stress, all the things that you really don't want to have happen. And I even like to take it a step further and say, think about what that is doing to your relationships too. So how are you showing up with your family and your loved ones and all those things if you're actually in that space and that negative energy on a regular basis? And then on the other side of that, there's an article in Business Insider that says people who love their jobs are actually making way more money. They are accumulating more wealth. They are getting rich faster than people who don't love their jobs. And so literally, when you hate your job, when you're not working from a place that's aligned and fulfilled and free, you are you're compromising your generational health and your wealth. And so it matters so much that we have a sense of pride and purpose in the work that we do.
Oh my goodness. My pen is working overtime today, my friend. Holy cow. Okay, I'm not going to list off the things that I wrote because otherwise we'll be here all day. Because just in that little segment, if anybody watching has not grabbed their pen and paper, now is the time to do it because you already know. This is going to be a good one. Okay, so first thing I want to say is how profound is it that when you're talking about the micro, so let me reframe this. In community psychology, we look at things from the micro, meso, and macro system. In many different sciences, we do that, but I'm specifically referring to community psychology. And that's because as an individual, you'd be looking at the micro, right? We're looking at those impacts that you described. We're looking at the physical, mental, emotional deficits that happen when you're not in alignment with what you're doing. And then you talked about how is that impacting your relationships, your intimate relationships, your friendly relationships, your relationship, never mind with the cashier. When you go in to buy the thing and it's not there, and now, well, you're aggravated because something's in misalignment with you and you're lashing out on them. So now we've gone from micro to meso. Now we go to macro, because how are you then negatively influencing your community and the world at large? This inspired me so much when you said that, because that's what I mean when I say you are never not marketing. When you show up, you need to be very intentional. And when you're being marketed to, because you always are being marketed to, you need to be very intentional as well about what you receive. And you just said it right there. That's amazing. And it all has to do with your job, your business, your tasks at hand, and whether or not it's joyful.
That's so good, Shauna. Yeah. You're never not marketing. You're never not interviewing. You're never not offering something. Right. And so if how you show up the words that you say, the stories you tell are like they're doing everything for you. And so yeah, that's so right in terms of community. I like the way that you laid that out too. It's just like, how are you showing? I remember there was a period in my own life in my first career as a professional dancer, and I had worked my way into burnout. And it was this thing that I loved, but I had worked my way into a burnout and I was just like cranky. And so it wasn't even that I hated my job. I was like hating the process of building this thing. And that's a whole other thing that we actually can be talking about too, like the process of the thing that you're trying to do. But I remember, just to that community and relational part, my relationships were a hot mess because I was just so cranky because I was so tired and just like exhausted. So my friends were like, "Girl, what's wrong with you?"
Mhm.
Or even just to take it to like more recent years when I've had professional pivots and I've maybe been in a work environment that was like not as healthy or psychological safe. And then my partner being like, "You're obsessing over this place, this thing." I've even had friends tell me like, yeah, my person told me I can't talk about work anymore because all I'm doing is complaining. Like that's an
Oh,
example of how
yeah.
it's like showing up when you're sort of not in alignment with, maybe you've outgrown it, maybe you just took the real job because you needed to pay bills, or whatever the thing is, when you're not in alignment, when it's not joyful, like you said, like it's impacting you and the folks around you for sure.
Yeah. And you know what you just made me think of? And this is going to sound silly, but people who have been with us for a while won't be surprised. I think I've mentioned this movie a few times. The movie Soul. Have you seen it? It's a Pixar, right?
Yes.
So
Yep.
you know the Lost Souls?
Mm-hmm.
The guy, like those big bestial things that are like, make a trade, make a trade. Like that's what I'm thinking of. That's like
Yeah.
you can become so obsessed with something that it
Mhm.
becomes a detriment. And
Yeah.
that's where I think a conversation about process needs to be had. Maybe not now, because right now I'd like to actually explore more of the micro and more of the alignment piece, because that
Yeah.
might be where a lot of people are skipping. And then we'll move into that process piece. So stick around because we are going to touch on that. But I think that's a very valid and interesting tactile way to look at what does it look like when you thought you were in alignment. Maybe you still are, but you've taken an approach to the process that creates a shift in
Mm-hmm.
a negative way. So
Mm-hmm.
I digress. We're gonna put that, hold on the shelf on the shelf, and we're gonna get back to that. But let's talk about that alignment. Let's talk
Yeah.
about what that looks like in life, in business, as an entrepreneur, but also as a person who could be a career person. Like there are a lot of people here who are doing both. There are a lot of
Mm.
people who are both in a career within some sort of corporation, but also pursuing a business. Some people are
Yep.
hyper focused on their business. But no matter what, the fact of the matter is, you still need to create a space. Oh, look at me. You still need to create a space where you are aligned and happy.
Mm-hmm.
Really. So tell me more about that. I want you to explore that with me, because I feel like your understanding of what that actually looks like when you're both in alignment and out of alignment, and how to recognize it and remedy it, will be far more extensive to what my experience would be in the space. So dive
Mm-hmm.
in, and I'm going to ask some questions as we go, because I have an insatiable curiosity that you always pique.
That's so sweet. I love that. So I can tell you exactly how it feels to me, and I can tell you exactly how I can spot misalignment in other people. So for me, alignment feels like peace. And I know you're going to understand what I'm saying by this. Peace, not in like it's just always calm, because you can be in alignment and still have friction and challenges and things like that. But it feels like just a knowing of like, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is like literally working from the inside out. This is an expression of who I am on the inside. I am authentically being me, authentically using strengths that are natural to me, authentically exploring interests and causes that are important to me. There's just like a piece, an energetic match, right? I'm just using a bunch of synonyms at this point.
It's okay. No, I get it. I'm here. I'm here for it.
You know,
It's that, and I don't even want to use the word contentment, but it's that, because that kind of sounds like settling. It's just that.
it's an ease and a flow.
Oh, yes, I like that. Flow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And you're with it. You're like, oh, What's next? Ooh,
Yes.
plot twist. Excellent. And you're there. Yes. It's a presence.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
sensation that's very hard to describe, but I know everyone listening right now has experienced it. Even if you're not in it right now, reflect on that. That's it. And if you're not there, what does it feel like?
Yeah. Well, this is how I can spot it in someone. Or I could say, to talk about feelings, when you're not in alignment, it's forced. It is constant friction. It is so to give an example of one of my clients who is someone who has had a traditional corporate career and then is now actually wanting to consult and do something independent. They're trying to apply, put all this effort into forcing this next step to happen. And they're just staying stuck. No doors are opening, no doors. And there is a world where you can be in alignment and the doors aren't opening because of timing or development or something like that. But this is just what you're going after doesn't even match who you are. You're trying to force some sort of I'll just throw something out there, which isn't necessarily her. I'm going to just go after this project management consulting thing. But your background is all these other things. And the story doesn't match. You actually aren't really lit up when you talk about it. It's just why are we doing this? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I've seen people come to me so many different times, I'm trying to do this thing. And then when I actually hear their story and their background, I'm like, why are you trying to do that?
Yeah.
You're not even excited about it.
When your response is, wait, why? Then you know that's how Shauna knows you're not in a It's true though. And it's so funny because when it comes from that space, we're looking at what's influencing your desire to do that, even though it's very obvious that it's misaligned. Is it some sort of external variable? Is it an internal assumption or block or conditioning that needs to be unlearned or that needs to be navigated in a different way? Is that what we're talking about when it comes to you supporting people through this potentially challenging transition?
It usually is some sort of self-awareness piece, maybe self-acceptance, maybe it's giving myself permission to actually go the way that I really want to go. So I'm going to go this other way because it has this illusion of stability and comfort and status and right, all these things that I'm going after, because the thing that I really want, I'm insecure about. Am I enough? Can I do it? Do I have enough experience? Will people actually pay for me? Will I be able to pay my bills if I go after it? Will I fail? Right? So what we really want usually comes with that sort of uncertainty. But we all know that control is an illusion. That's not even real anyway. So you can be pursuing these things. And one of two things, maybe a couple other scenarios happens. You either keep trying to force these doors to open that actually aren't in alignment with who you are. And what you could do in those situations when the doors aren't opening the way that you would like them to is use that as data and redirect, right? Just, can you pivot in some other way? Or you can just keep forcing it, get the opportunity, get there, and then just hate it. And you're right back to being miserable. So you hear people who kind of jump out of the fire into the frying pan, or the other way around, whichever way. It's that kind of
I'm envisioning this now. Wait, out of
the frying pan into the fire.
Right? Yes. That makes sense. But yes. That's it. And that is exactly it. Because and now I should say, and I want to challenge you slightly just because I want to know your opinion on this in case any of our viewers are experiencing this. So you've got this direction and the doors are closed, but you really, really feel like it's there. And you're taking this as data, sure. But you don't really want to find another door because that feels like it's a big shift away and less aligned. But this door still isn't gosh darn opening it. What merit is there for looking for a window? What does that look like when you're exploring that space?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and definitely sort of like a nuance, or I don't even want to say outlier. So the scenario that I was describing is when someone is not in alignment and they're trying to force it and force it and force it, and the closed door being a sign of the misalignment.
Right.
Yes, there is a world where you are in alignment, you're doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing, and the doors still aren't opening because of timing or development or whatever the thing, right? Not the right partnership, not the right whatever, insert the thing is here. And I think in those situations, I'm trying to think of another analogy to a door. I hear you with window. It's kind of like you can be going after an opportunity, and maybe that specific opportunity and that specific makeup isn't the one, but there is a similar outcome from a slightly varied opportunity that you could be pursuing as well. Does that make sense?
I think it does. I think it does. So we're like, because at first I thought, oh, maybe we're looking for the key, but I don't think that's it. It's the idea of it's not.
I have an example for you. Here's an
Okay.
example. So when I was in my first career professional dancer, towards the tail end of that, I had gone to grad school, got a master's in dance. And then it happened upon me that young dancers were like, oh, you've had this career. I want to learn more from you. Can you help me out? Right. And so then I was like, oh, sure. Like, let me figure out what that could look like. And then I was like, I think I want to start blogging, but I think it'd be even cooler if I could write for like Dance Magazine Point and like get this career information out to more folks. Right. And so at a certain point, it was like, I feel like writing is the right vehicle for me. Now, what's the opportunity? How can I unlock that? And so me knocking on doors or me trying to support people in that way, I was getting a lot of like, nah, not really. Like, in order to write, you have to have written for someone, but you have to have experience to get experience kind of thing. And so what I did then, the pivot for me is like, I'm still going to write. So I started blogging, and I had tons of my own content to start from. I created my own experience and just kept knocking on the doors until eventually someone was like, oh my gosh, yes, now let me open the door for you. And so in that situation, I was absolutely doing the right thing, but I had to sort of do it differently as I kept knocking on doors, if that makes sense.
I love that. It does. It does. It's kind of like parallel to, not the same, but parallel to when you aren't offered a seat at the table, you create your own table.
Exactly.
It's that whole idea. So we're literally doing demo and DIYing our own freaking door.
Exactly.
In order for it to open, because it's our door. So we get to open it.
Yes.
I love that. Okay, so now we've done that, or something akin to that. We found our alignment, the door has opened, or we've created our own door. Maybe even through entrepreneurship.
Yes.
You never know. You love it. It's amazing. And now you're saying, make a trade. You're in the space where you're like, okay, I'm in it. This is what I want to do. I'm passionate about this. It lights my soul on fire. But the processes of doing such things is draining my life force. I get that a lot with my clients. I get that a lot because being a business owner is very different than just coaching someone or just providing therapy to someone who just comes to you. Because as a business owner, you wear so many other hats. And some of those hats you'll love. And some of those hats you'll hate. But you've got to do it in order to do the thing that you love to do. How do we navigate that?
I'm going to say something that my younger self used to loathe this statement, but I've just learned that it's so true. When people say trust the process, I used to be so annoyed because, we were talking about this before we pressed go on this conversation for others to hear, but the go nowhere fast. In my like 20s and early 30s, I was just like in a rush to get somewhere. Like, and so like, I don't know where I was going. And I would just want to tell my younger self, like, girl, slow down, like, chill out, you're fine. But because I was in a rush, so going back to sort of this early career days, and I was building this actually like a freelance body of work coupled with some like content creation, coaching kind of stuff that I was doing.
Nice.
And it was like, I was so fixated on an outcome, like on a destination that I hadn't arrived at. And that made me feel like I was on the hamster wheel because I'm doing all the right things, but I hadn't reached this destination. I hadn't reached this status, like I was saying before. I hadn't reached this income level. I hadn't reached this mountaintop that I was like aiming for. And so it just kept me in this like stinking thinking, frustration. It's not working. Is it ever going to work? What's wrong with me? I'm doing all the right things. Like until finally I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. Now I told myself in this version of my life, my career. So after that first career, went on to have a corporate career for a number of years. And now I'm back to, I'm a full on entrepreneur in this stage. And so I said to myself, I'm not doing that again. I'm not burning myself out. I'm not building in a vacuum, which is a whole other conversation we can have. And then I am going to slow down, simmer down, and just enjoy where I am when I'm there. So in this phase, I'm like, trusting the process to me means that there is no destination. I have to build my business in a way that what I'm doing each and every day, that I can find some meaning and joy from it each and every day. And I have to let that be enough. Like that has to be enough, because otherwise I'm going to get right back on that hamster wheel. I'm going to get right back into burnout. Like I haven't gotten there. Yes, I have goals. Yes, I have strategies. Yes, I have all the things. And as I'm working towards it, each step of it has to be enough. That joy has to be enough. That connection I have with a client has to be enough. My writing this one article has to be enough. This conversation with Shauna on our podcast, it has to be enough. And that is how I'm going to be able to trust the process. And then eventually luck and say, oh my gosh, I built this really incredible thing and I had so much fun while I was doing it. Do you know?
I love this so much. Yeah. I'm just sitting here like, and it's right. Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
What can you do? It's that trust the process. You are enough. And in fact, I was thinking this earlier. We're gonna move on just momentarily, just because we are running short. But earlier we were talking about what you bring forth to the world. Yeah. And valuing that. And I had thought, and I didn't mention because we were on a trajectory here, but we've come full circle as far as I'm concerned. Your worth and your value is not determined by these extrinsic things.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important perspective to hold dear when you're trusting the process, when you're enjoying the journey. That's something I'd like people to take home with them. But I also know that you have more to say. I mean, we are gonna have to have another conversation, because I'm already sitting here going, building in a vacuum. So we're gonna have more chats.
I would love that. Yes.
But now I'm gonna ask you to share with the audience here something that maybe you had on your mind, but I haven't asked you yet. So think on that first. And I want to let everybody know that conversations just like this are happening every single week. So join the conversation, leave us messages. We're here. We ain't going anywhere. We're going to respond. Make sure you subscribe so you know when the next conversation is coming out, because we want you to be a part of this movement. We want you to join the conversation and make meaningful change in the world, understanding that you're never not marketing. Now, Shtay, I'm going to give you the floor.
Speaking of never not marketing.
Beauty.
So the thing that I would say that I would want to double click on, or maybe just introduce for the first time, is the fact that you can. We've done a lot of talk about alignment and what that looks like, what it doesn't look like. And then what do you do kind of when you have that alignment, and what could be next? And we talked about trusting the process. All of that, there is an end goal. It is like how free you can feel with the business that you're building, with the body of work that you're building in service to other people. And so I have to leave with these parting words with you. You absolutely can. You just got to give yourself permission to do it. Make sure that you have the support to do it. And then you can do it in a way that's in alignment with who you are too. It doesn't have to be prescriptive in a way that someone else has done it. And I've got a really awesome resource, especially for those of you who are like me with an unrelated background and you're trying to make sense of the past 20 years of your career, and how do you organize and monetize the things so that you can have that career fulfillment and alignment that we were talking about. If you scan the QR code here, you'll be taken to my free resource. It's a tool to help you make sense, like I said, transform your unrelated background to your unique professional advantage. And it's called the Multi-Hyphenates Manifesto. And I would love to have you take advantage of it and start working through those exercises so that you can start having that alignment and career fulfillment that we've been talking about today.
Amazing. And I also just love the fact that it's the multi-hyphenated manifesto.
Yeah.
I read that and I said, wow, yes. Because even just like perspective wise, we hear things like mompreneur. Guess what? There's also just like being a mom in a career, being a mom in any sort of space. That's multi-hyphenated times infinity. And being a parent, I should say. Anybody who is present with a dependent. It makes a difference. And that's only one example of many where somebody would fall into a place where this right here will make a difference in how you approach what you do, whether you're in business, whether you're in business for yourself, in business for someone else, in corporate. It doesn't matter whether you're not. Maybe you're a stay-at-home mom or parent and you're going, okay, but I'm having a hard time aligning my value and my worth with the things that I do on a day-to-day. All of these things can be explored with the multi-hyphenated manifesto. I love it. That's so fun. Now that said, if you're also looking at exploring what does it look like to be in alignment when it comes to when I'm showing up in the world, remembering that you're never not marketing, you feel like, okay, I'm showing up, but it doesn't really feel like me. Talk to Shauna. I got you covered. The same sort of mentality, but let's focus on branding, marketing, content, and copy so you can get clients and accelerate your business. Go to www.shaunalee.com and talk to me, because I always like a good conversation, especially with a good story. And I'm going to pull the story out of you. With that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. We will chat soon.